and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about water recreation in Hampton. And I'm really excited because we live in a city with 124 miles of waterfront, from creeks to rivers to the bay beaches, and people should get out and enjoy it. My guest is Jesse Taylor. Welcome, Jesse.
Hi.
And you're a park ranger for the city parks,
Yes.
which covers a big variety of waterfront, right?
Yes, it does. Everything from lakes, ponds, to the beaches.
So let's assume that someone isn't very familiar with the water, isn't used to getting out there, maybe is a beginner. What are some opportunities we have? And one of the great things is you don't have to own your own boat. You start out small.
Yeah, for instance, Sandy Bottom is a good place to start out. We have everything from kayaks, canoeing, paddle boats, and john boats. You can also bring, once you do get into the sport and you decide it's something that you want to continue with, we have the opportunity for you to get a permit so that you can bring your boats out there and practice in our own lakes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was an opportunity that wasn't yet
new.
available till this year. We just started it.
Okay, that's great.
But for kayaking, you can go out into our lakes. That's a good place for beginners to start because they don't have to worry about currents, waves. They can learn their strokes, proper stroke techniques. Plus, we offer programs to teach people how to kayak properly.
Ooh, I've never actually learned. I just started
there's a lot that goes into kayaking. For instance, and even canoeing, your strokes, how to be more efficient so that you are able to be out there all day and actually enjoy yourself without making it too much of a stressful situation because of the workout.
Right.
So that's one area just for the beginners to start out with.
Now, but a kayak, I mean, you have mostly one-person kayaks?
We have two persons.
Okay,
we have tandems. But our tandem kayaks that we have are nice Malibu 2 kayaks. They're also good for just single individuals to be on. There's 3 seats, but in case one person goes, there's a center seat just for the single person.
So, okay, so if you have a kid, I mean, not a little kid, but an older kid, that's a good way to do it because they're not having to paddle on their own. You're with them, you're helping them,
and they're very
them.
stable. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I like that about kayaks. Like, it's easier to tip a canoe than a kayak to me.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people think it's the opposite because they see such a smaller low to the
wide
level. Yeah,
but it's the standing up and then moving around on a canoe. I think that gets you in trouble a lot of times. Okay, so canoeing is another option though, and for people who are more used to that.
We have 5 of each actually at our park. We have 5 john boats, 5 paddle boats, kayaks, and canoes. And the canoes that we have are relatively long. They're about 16-foot canoes. They track very well, and they're easy to maneuver. And that usually is because people tend to think canoes tend to be more stable. That's our biggest rental at our park, actually, which all of our boats are actually only $4 an hour, so it's relatively cheap to go out there and learn the sport.
Oh, that's really good. And now paddle boats, you don't really get anywhere. I mean, they're not the most efficient form of travel.
No, they're slow. The main thing about paddle boats is they're extremely stable. You can stand up on them, move around. You don't have to worry about tipping over. Plus, it's a really good exercise. If you've ever been on a paddle boat for an hour, your legs are burning afterwards.
Oh my gosh, I was amazed at how I didn't go very far, but it was killing me. But it's also a good thing for kids because those paddle boats hold 4 people, right? Yep. And the 2 people in the back don't paddle. So if you have a little kid and just want to get them out on the water for the first time or two, or if you have a kid
over their fears.
Yeah, if you have a kid with long enough legs, then you make them do all the work, and you get to sit in the back.
Yep.
So just $4 an hour, and really going out for an hour is a really good way to start. You don't really want more than that if you're not used to it.
Yep. But there's a lot of other opportunities in Hampton too, such as, we have Buckrow Beach and Fort Monroe Beach, and Buckrow has their rentals for kayaks.
I want to try that. So that's like a little bit of wave action going out. But
you have to learn how to do what they call surf launches.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit harder. But it's the hardest part of being in open water, of course, is dealing with the current. And that's why you start at a place like Sandy Bottom, learn your paddles, learn how to paddle. Then you go out to like Buckrow Beach or even to Newmarket Creek out of Air Power Park or River Street Park. And there you have to learn how to deal with the current. You have to know how to time yourself because you want to go out at the proper time. You don't want to go out and go against the current the whole time. So
I swear I have never figured out how to do that. Newmarket Creek too is one of those things where there's a current and there's tides, and so I swear to you, every time I go out, I'm going against one or the other. It is not an easy paddle, but it's so nice because you are down low, and it blocks a lot of the street noise from Mercury and Armistead, and you can see the Home Depot and you can see the interstate signs and the exit. It's like exit here, and the creek is turning right at that same time, and it's just beautiful down there.
Yeah, and it has a lot of opportunities too, because I mean there's a good distance in just waterways through Newmarket Creek, but you can also go out into Back River over there by Langley through Newmarket Creek, and you go to like Gosnell's launch ramp and set up a day trip where you launch out of Air Power Park and wind up down at Gosnell Hope Park and have a picnic, and then wait for the current to switch to follow it back in.
I want to try that. How far would that be?
It's a couple miles each way,
so
it's not too bad. Especially when you're with the current. I mean, you're a lot more efficient. It doesn't take a whole lot to move the boat.
That's what I need to figure out. Yeah. Okay, how do you figure that out?
If you go online to Google, and I don't have a specific website that I even use, I just type it into Google, I want the tide charts for Hampton, and I make sure that I start before like if it says the tide is going out at, for instance, 12 o'clock.
Okay, going out, and I'm so like basic and stupid. The tide is going out means it's just after high tide, so it's going to the low tide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for instance, you would want to start about an hour before that at Air Power Park to get to like Gosnell, so you can follow the tide out.
Okay.
And then you could have your picnic or go walk in the park or the playground with your family, and then wait for the tide to come back in and follow it an hour beforehand back to Air Power Park. And once you get into Newmarket Creek, where the water is channeled down, the water is much faster anyway, so you actually becomes a lot more easier for you to stroke once you get into the narrower creeks and channels like that.
And it is like two completely different paddles depending on which way you go. Like going toward the Coliseum, it's a little bit shady, it's narrow, it's slow, and if you go to the right, you are in the sun, you are in bigger water pretty quickly, and the views and the wildlife are completely different.
Yeah, I've always liked going towards the Air Force Base because you get to see things like the B-52 statue right there on the side of the water and all the fighter jets that are sitting right there on the entrance to Back River. So, I mean, that's pretty neat to go that route, but definitely on the more sunny days where the heat's kind of glaring down, if you go towards the Coliseum, you definitely have a lot more shade.
Okay, and so that covers Newmarket Creek and Back River. Hampton River, you can kayak on that.
Hampton River, of course, I mean, you have your canoe and kayak opportunities there too and stuff like that. I personally have been more into, we started training people at our park, more employees, on how to kayak and canoe, and we could take them out as instructors with us because there are 4 of us that are ACA certified.
Oh,
and,
cool.
We'll take them out on new trips now, trying to get ideas for programs, and one of the ones we're thinking about is like a kayak and fishing program or something like that, where you actually get to learn how to go out into like the HRBT, go rock fishing or flounder fishing right there from the kayak.
Can you do that? That looks like giant water. I have not had the nerve to go out there.
It's actually really fun, especially when you hook into something large, especially if you hook into like a cobia, which every now and then will happen. And when you're in a kayak, a cobia can really pull you around for a while.
I was going to say, wow.
Yeah, so that can be pretty fun.
Okay. So people can also launch from, what's that, River Street Park?
River Street Park, they have a dock put in place just for kayaking.
Yeah, I think that's really convenient. I know some people, I've heard a lot of criticism that that park isn't widely used, but I use it all summer. It's the best place to get on the Hampton River with a kayak, I think.
It's not so much that it's not widely used, like you said. It's used by the kayakers for the most part. There's not a playground there. You have a history walk.
And dog walkers. I see a lot of people with dogs.
And also that, I mean, you can go there and there's pavers that were put in place that have the history of Hampton written out from the beginning to pretty much right now.
Yeah.
So you can go there and kind of learn the history of Hampton if you don't know it just by walking and reading what's on the sidewalk. But the biggest thing of that park was the fact that they put in a kayak dock for people to go in.
Love it. And you can go, and that's one where you can go 2 ways too. You can go toward downtown and, out that way toward Sunset Creek, or you could go the other way and play along all the neighborhoods out there. You can also, you mentioned Gosnell's Hope Park, and this is a tricky one for kayakers, I think, but you can use the city's big boat ramps.
Yes.
It's just, you got to be really careful to stay out of the way of the big boats.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of recreational boaters that'll go out there in their fishing vessels, and you have to make sure that you give them the space they need. I mean, basically, when it comes to boater safety, when you're smaller, big giveaway has always been the thing. If there's a bigger boat, make sure he has the right of way. Make sure you get out of his way. Stay closer to the edges where those boats can't get to anyways. Make sure they have the deeper part of the channel. It's not a good idea when you're in a kayak, and especially when you're in a small channel like that, to take the center of it.
Yeah, I always stay to the edge anyway because it's a little bit easier paddling if you're not in the big current. Or it's just, you know, I launched from Dandy Point a couple of times and I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of big boats here.
Yeah.
But if you stay to the edge and clip over to Grunland Creek or, you know, one of those other ones, you're not out in the middle so much.
Yeah, especially since, you know, kayaks only take like 2 to 3 inches of water to, you know, for maneuverability, whereas these boats, a lot of their draft, I mean, they need, you know, 18 plus inches. So as long as you're in shallow water, you don't have to worry about it anyways.
So what are some other safety tips? Obviously, if we're renting from you guys at the park, one of the parks, you're going to make us wear...
Yeah, we provide the life jackets for any of our rentals, of course. The basic thing is just make sure you have safety in mind at all times. I mean, if you're out and about on your own, make sure you have a life jacket on. You never know, especially when you're in shallow water. If you fall and hit your head, if you don't have a life jacket on...
Even if you can swim.
Exactly. If you get knocked unconscious, then there's not a whole lot of help that could be done for you at that point unless you're with someone. But hopefully you don't get to that point. Of course, you need to have something, some sort of signaling device as a whistle, something to let somebody know what's going on. Because there have been plenty of times that when I've been fishing out at like the HRBT or something like that, I've seen people out there and they don't have their life jacket on. They don't have like a whistle attached to them. They don't have any sort of signaling devices like flags or anything because, like you said, these larger boats, especially when they're moving 35, 45 miles an hour, they don't see tiny kayaks.
No, they can't look down that far.
No, so I mean,
easily.
a lot of these boats, their bow is risen as they're driving like that. So
yeah, that gets pushed
so
up.
they don't see you. It's best to have extra signaling devices so they can see you. And just make sure, you know, the biggest thing about going on water recreation trips, especially when you're in open water, is letting people know where you plan on going before you go.
Right.
Give them timelines. That way, if you don't show up where you're supposed to be at a certain time, they know where to tell people to look for you because you told them. If you don't tell anybody where you're going and you don't give them the timelines, then there's a good chance that you might not be noticed until it's too late. You either get pushed away because of the current or whatever the fact. But if you always keep those things in mind, then your chances for having a safe trip and a fun trip are vastly improved.
That sounds great. Oh, and I did want to mention, I haven't tried it yet. Have you done the kayak launch on Fort Monroe off onto Mill Creek?
That ramp they have there, I haven't used that ramp, but I have gone off into that area of Fort Monroe. I've gone off to the side of it, but I haven't used that.
People used to just go off the sandy beach,
yeah,
I think.
I still
but they put in
that
floating dock last year, and I'm really excited about it because I think it'll be fun.
I think so too. It's a lot easier for people, especially somebody who may be a little bit more handicapped because they have a rolling dock. It's easier to push off of it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, well, I am excited because it is kayaking season, and I haven't been out this year, and maybe we can find a way to shoot some video on some of these and show people what it's like. Because I think, you know, we can sit here in the studio and talk forever and ever, but once you're down there and you see and you feel the water, I mean, it's one of Hampton's best assets and one of the reasons people live here. And we should find the time and find a way to take advantage of it because it's beautiful.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay, well, thank you, Jesse, for coming by and sharing this with us.
All right, you're welcome.
And thank you for watching. I hope I will see you out on one of our waterways this summer. I'm not in a big boat, but you'll see me in my little kayak, hopefully a lot of times this summer. Thanks for watching.